Hello everyone, welcome to week 2 of our frequently asked questions when it comes to moving home or selling a property. In the mysterious bowl this week,
See what we got.
quite a broad question, where do I even begin?
Wow. Okay, yeah, so I guess it could probably be, we deal with it every day, but it could probably be quite daunting for a lot of people if you haven't moved for a number of years, or if you're a first time buyer and never done it.
True.
I guess.
True.
So, alright, let's start off with, if you're a first time buyer, if you've got nothing to sell in order to buy, or if you're in rented accommodation, I guess. My first port of call would always be to sit down with a mortgage advisor, ideally a whole of market one, but I know we've got some questions about mortgages coming up in the, well,
One of them's in
there, so when we get to it, we'll explain that a bit more, but certainly a whole of market mortgage advisor or just your high street bank. Why to do that? They're going to give you a good idea of what you can afford. Now, there are a lot of these kind of online calculators at the moment.
Yeah, they're not entirely accurate, are they?
No, they're not the best, and we come across it time and time again where people think they can afford a certain figure, but once they sit down with a mortgage advisor, that figure changes somewhat.
Definitely, if people are ringing up to get registered onto our mailing list or inquiring about properties, we are always asking, what have you done with finances, just to ensure that they're not wasting their own time, they're not wasting the vendor's time. At least that way you can go out and see a property. If it's on the market for £250,000, you know that you can afford that really at the end of the day.
Yeah, it saves that kind of heartache which we touched on in the last video of seeing your dream property and then not being able to get it.
That's right.
Next step of the process, I would say just phone around 2 or 3 different solicitors. Get a price from them. This is a bit further down the line, but I just feel, certainly as a first time buyer, you need to go into it with your eyes open as much as possible and know exactly what that end bill is going to be, which probably should include stamp duty as well. I think that's...
Yeah, I mean, depending on how much it is, obviously remember that up to £300,000, certainly for where we are locally, your stamp duty free as a first time buyer, sorry. But it's not just, I think you hit the nail on the head there, it's not just about saving up just your deposit. You need to know your costs, and certainly when it comes to solicitors, that's massively important and helpful to know from the offset.
Yeah, I would say so. And I guess just kind of one more point really that I can think of off the top of my head, because again it's something that we come up against on a regular basis, would be if you are in rented accommodation, just make sure you have a knowledge of how long you are tied into that rental agreement for.
Yeah.
The situation that arises sometimes is, you know, you get all the way through this whole process, you nearly move into your dream home only to find out that you're stuck in a rented property for another 4 months. So the question then needs to be raised, can you afford to pay the rent on that property and your mortgage at the same time?
Yeah.
So do check into that, make sure you're aware of how much notice you need to give your landlord or your letting agent.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I think that's it from kind of that first time buyer, nothing to sell in rented accommodation point of view, really.
I mean, if you do have a property to sell, it's not going to be too much different, to be honest. All you're going to be looking at from a slight change is a couple of things that I can think of is, especially like what we said last week when it comes to, should I find first or should I sell first?
Yeah.
Make sure you just get a valuation done on your property. Even when you go to, if it is a broker or the bank, they'll probably ask you, what are you doing? Have you got a property to sell? How much is it worth?
Yeah.
If you're then trying to pluck a figure out the sky that could be far too low, far too high, it's not going to help. Getting a realistic figure is so important, not just, if the stars align, you might be able to get this property and become the most expensive house in the road.
Yeah.
You want to be realistic, just in case it's not worked out to be what you want, or your agent might not get the figure they've kind of promised. At least that way you're not left high and dry.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're not potentially downsizing or fortunate enough to not need a mortgage, it's just about bridging that gap between what's in the bank and what your house is worth as well.
Of course.
But there onwards, it's probably the same sort of process.
I would just say maybe the only kind of slight tweak, if you was to follow it in a plan as such, is that after kind of your mortgage advice and still get the solicitor's quotes, work out the stamp duty, would be bring your property to the market.
Yeah, of course. Definitely.
Yeah, and then I think at both of the end of those processes, it's the exciting part where get out, go and view properties.
Go and find somewhere.
Yeah, go and find your dream home.
Easier said than done, but
really is.
That process will allow you to be in the best position financially, and also when it comes to offering, you should have a better chance of securing what you want. And I think that probably rounds
I think so.
up that one. Like we said, there's a couple of bits in there that maybe elaborated on with one or two other questions that are in the vault, which we'll touch on in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But any advice needed if you find yourself in that position where you too are moving for the first time or for the first time in a long time, get in contact with us. Phone, email, comment below, let us know what's going on.
Yeah, always happy to give any impartial advice that anybody might need.
Indeed.
So we'll see you same time, same place for week 3.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.